All right. Hello, everyone. Today we are going to be talking about Pear Deck. And as I've said, it would be great if everyone has a second device or a second screen. You can grab that and follow along later on in the session. We are going to be having you guys jump in as a student. So having that second screen or second device, you'll be able to see both the student and the teacher interaction within Pear Deck. So I'm going to share my screen. I do have some slides to go around in the beginning. Uh-oh. And my Zoom doesn't want to work. Let's try this again. Ah, there we go. Okay. All right, here we go. So, Pear Deck, it's right here. I am planning to post the slides as well as the recording onto a website after we finish up today. So you'll have access to the slides as well for your reference. There are some links throughout that will help you to learn about the different parts of Pear Deck. Some of the stuff we might not get to today, you'll have a chance to kind of dig a little deeper into it. So let's get right to the good stuff. Pear Deck actually has 3 components to it. The first one, called Pear Pop, is relatively new. It came out this past spring, so almost a year ago. It's not quite so new anymore, but a lot of people still are unfamiliar with it. And what it is basically, it's an on-the-spot kind of quick post a question. You don't have to sit down and put together 10, 15, 20 slides of a presentation and then embed questions in it. It's a chance for teachers to just kind of ask things on the spot, post things up in the class, and give the kids a chance to respond. It works really well with the teacher asking the question verbally, and then on the screen, it'll have kind of the manipulation that the kids will do, like slide the dot to this side or that side, or write your response here, whereas the question is actually coming from the teacher. It's not necessarily on the screen because she didn't have time to put together a slide with that piece of text on it. So we'll talk about that a little bit in a couple minutes. Pear Deck for Slides is the meat and potatoes of Pear Deck. And what that means is it gives teachers a chance to take their presentations that most of you probably already have and used even before the COVID shutdowns, things that you would share in class, presentations you would put up for your students to use. But what it allows you to do is, using the add-on that's built into slides, you can embed interactive questions and activities for the kids to do to keep them engaged in the presentation. So it's not just this presentation of the teacher standing at the front of the classroom and lecturing them, or on Zoom lecturing them. They have an opportunity to really engage and interact with the slides themselves. And then the final piece is geared specifically for vocabulary. It's a really collaborative activity for the kiddos to do. They're put into groups of, they're put into pairs. They work with a partner. And then those sets of partners are put into teams. There's a day team and a night team, and they compete to try and have the most responses to the vocabulary kind of approved by the teacher. So which team is going to get to the goal first? And we'll talk about how that works as well. So the first one is Pear Pop. So it's unplanned, it's spontaneous. You'll still have access to the teacher dashboard. So there's 2 pieces of Pear Deck. There's what the students see, the student interface, and then there's what the teacher sees. What the teacher sees is who answered which question which way, how many kids have answered. You can overlay the answers of the kids on top of one another, so you can kind of see, are they all in the right area, or are they all over the place and we need to review this again? You can see a running list if it's a text answer of what the kids have answered along the way. You can share answers. So if someone gave a really great answer, you can share that out with the kids. And when you share it, it's anonymous. So even though you might want to highlight a kid and show that they did something really well, that child might be a shy child and doesn't want their name plastered all over the screen. You can still share that example and keep it anonymous so that it's just a great example. It's not Billy's example. So you can see the way that the students are responding. They do have timers and lock screens, meaning you can lock the kids into a certain screen. They can't keep going, they can't go back, and you can shut down the window for submitting answers. And if you've posted a question and that question leads to another question, you can immediately add another one right on top of it. You don't have to kind of exit out, come back in, build something new, any of that kind of stuff. It's kind of in the moment, build it as you go kind of a thing, which is really nice. A lot of teachers have, not in Milford, because I don't think many people have been using Pear Pop specifically in Milford yet, but some of the other Prea Deck districts I talked to, they've been using it to monitor participation in classroom discussions. So they'll kind of post prompts, and then as students are discussing and talking about it, the teacher or whoever's in charge of the Prea Deck screen is able to continue adding those discussion questions and prompts for the kids to reply to. And when you're all said and done, you have documentation of who participated in that conversation or that responding, even if it wasn't auditory and out loud for, you know, the group to hear, you at least know who was engaged in the questions kind of behind the scene, which was really nice. So some of the suggested ways you can use it, you can ask a question. So if a kiddo asks you a question and it's really a question that's more geared towards the rest of the class, you can kind of say, oh, Celeste, that's a great question. Why don't we ask the rest of the class that question and see what they think? You can use it like that. You can use it as a bell ringer while you're waiting for the kids to log into your Zoom or to get into the classroom and unpack. You can do a comprehension or an understanding check, an exit ticket, popping a question on a field trip on the way home. So particularly with our older kids, I know we're not doing field trips, but they do have their phones and stuff like that. Or if they've already packed up for the day, they can whip out their phone and answer a question on joinpd.com. They can respond as they're walking out the door, which is really nice. A lot of counselors have been using it for SEL type stuff. How are you feeling today? Did you have time to do your work at home? Are you feeling anxious about stuff? So you can add all those SEL things in. And then, like we said, discussion monitoring, which is really nice. So pretty new. You do have to go to the Pear Deck website to start these. But when you go to peardeck.com, it's right there across the top. You just click on it and you go. Most of our time today is going to be spent doing Pear Deck. So Pear Deck for Slides is pushed out for us in Milford. So it's already there. This step is just how to add it. So if you're on a personal device and you're not logged into Google Chrome through your school email account, but you want to add this to your personal Gmail account, you can do that. It's right here. You go into the add-ons, you Google Pear Deck for Google Slides add-on, you click on it and you install it, and it's right there. You do have to be signed in to your Milford account in order to have all of the features, because we do pay for the upgraded premium version. Oops, there we go. So the way it works is you have slides. I highly recommend having your slides already built, have your content on there, have what you want the kids to learn, have it ready to go. Could be a presentation from last year, the year before, something you use and tweak every year as you go along, but have your slides already made. Don't try and build them while you're putting Pear Deck in here. Have your slides and your content ready to go. Open it up in Slides, and then you go up here to where it says add-ons. You go to Pear Deck for Google Slides, and you do open Pear Deck. Move you guys over here. So as you can see, it opens up over here on the side. And then you have all of these choices for questions. So the template library is nice because if you don't really know what to put in there or what to add, you can click on this and it shows you ideas for beginning, during, and end of the lesson. It shows you ideas for critical thinking, SEL, example questions by subject area. So let's say, for example, I want to do a science question. I can come in here. I can look for different things. Here's a math example, matching by drawing lines. So if I know kind of what I want the kids to do, but I'm not really sure how to present it to them, I can kind of come in here and search for what I want. So these are the templates that they give you. Then these are the question types that you can use. So text is the kids type out their answer. So they have to physically type in their answer. Multiple choice, same as a multiple choice test question. You just pick the answer on the screen that you want to choose as your answer. Number, it's like a text question, but it does force them to use the numerals. So if the answer is 12, they can't type out the word 12. They have to type the 1 and the 2. It forces them to use numbers. Website is if you are trying to have the kids look at something or go to a specific website, but you also want them to have your slides open at the same time. So it allows them to have the website open on one side of their screen, but still have your slides open on the other half of the screen. So it's almost like having dual screens without them having to know how to do dual screens at the same time. Drawing, the kids actually use their mouse or their trackpad to draw on the picture that's on your slide. And draggable is where they're able to take an icon that you put on the slide and drag it to a specific area of the screen that you want them to move it to. It could be a map. You want them to put a pinpoint on a map. It could be finding a particular object in the picture. It could be circling all the nouns in the paragraph. So you might have 10 circles on there and you want them to drag the circles to the different areas of the screen. But whatever it is, they're dragging a shape somewhere onto the screen. The really nice thing about Pear Deck is that you can also add audio to the slides. So you could record yourself reading the text that's on the slide. So I know, Shelby, we were talking about using the voice, what's it called, talking comment to try and get the audio for the slides. You can do this where you add the audio to the slides. The only thing is that when you assign it, you're not going to be assigning it through Google Classroom as make a copy for each student. You would be assigning it as a Pear Deck assignment. So then the kids would get their answers back as a Google Doc, a takeaway, and I'll show you how that works at the end. But this is another option for how to do that too. And then down here, they do have some stuff that they go through. Like right now, they have some digital citizenship, the internet awesome kind of stuff going on. They have some other stuff. They had a big SEL push over the summer. So they have some kind of themes and content that they're focused on at a particular time that are available for you guys to use. So you just put your slides together like you normally would, figure out what kind of questions you want to put in here. So for example, on this slide right now, I have a draggable on here, but if I wanted to change it to a multiple choice, I would click multiple choice. It pops up a window. I would put the question answer choices, the choices that the kids have. I can add as many as I want. I would update my slide and it would put it in there. The question needs to be on the slide itself. So the question is actually a text box or an image that's built into my slide. The Pear Deck part is just the answers that the kids can choose from. There we go. All right, so I'm going to shut this off for a sec. There we go. If you have videos or GIFs, you know, those like little moving pictures that kind of repeat themselves over and over again. If you want those to work on Pear Deck, you do have to have this Power Up Chrome extension. I'm not sure why. I think Pear Deck kind of shuts that off on its own. So in order for them to work through the Pear Deck push out that it does, you have to have this Power Up extension on your thing. But if you're not going to have your own YouTubes or your own videos or GIFs in your slides to begin with, you don't need to worry about having that extension. And you need to have the extension, not your students, just you. So here's what we do. We did that. So then the last part of Pear Deck before we jump in and kind of get a chance to play around with a little bit is the vocabulary part. And it's a little bit cumbersome to set up and to get the kids used to using it, but it's really a lot of fun. If you ever have a chance to, I think there's a video on the end of here of kids using it in the classroom. It's a lot of fun to watch the kids collaborate and try and problem solve and work together to get the best answers that they can. So the way it works is you put your words in, so you can type them in just like you would type anything else in, or you can copy and paste them. So if you have them in a Google Doc or a spreadsheet or somewhere else, you can just paste them into the window. You also want to make sure that you're including the definitions. Again, you can write your own, copy and paste them from somewhere else. They do have a Merriam-Webster kind of integration, like a button you can click to pull over the definition. It'll look it up right there for you. But if you ever looked anything up on an internet dictionary, it's kind of an adult definition. It's not a kid-friendly definition. So if you're looking for a kid-friendly definition, you definitely want to have your own and bring that in with your either typing or copy paste. So then there's a couple different ways to play. If you choose to play with the definitions, the students are responsible for taking the word and using it into a sentence. So they see the definition, they just have to use it in a sentence. If you choose to play without the definitions, the students are responsible for coming up with the definition to that word. Once you have had the students put in their responses, type in their sentences, type in their definitions, they can be printed and exported so you can use them as flashcards or study materials for the kids. It also integrates with the website Gimkit. So they could also, you could pull the definitions and sentences into that website. And what it does is it builds different games using the vocabulary and the definitions that you put in there. I highly recommend, if you're going to do this, you talk to your kids about what makes a good sentence, what makes a good definition, what your expectations are. Like 3 words isn't going to cut it. You can't just say it's raining outside today and the vocabulary word is raining. Like that doesn't help us. You need to set expectations and kind of let them know what kind of definition and sentence you're expecting from them. So then once you've put in all the information, it's time to play. So it randomly puts the kids into pairs. It puts them with a partner. If you don't like the pairs that are created, you can reshuffle them, but you can't adjust them manually. It's a roll of the dice. They get who they get. If you don't like it, it's a roll of the dice and everybody gets a new partner. So that's the only way to change that. Once they have partners, they're separated into 2 teams. So there's a night shift and there's a day shift. Within the partners, one partner is the illustrator. So they're going to be drawing a picture of the word. And then there's an author or a writer, and they're going to be writing the sentence or the definition, and they're working together as a team. The goal is to have the most teacher approved sets from either the day shift or the night shift. And once one of the shifts has reached the goal, it's kind of a factory setting. So the truck rolls out of the shipping department and all the packages go away. And then it's time for you guys to discuss and pull it into Gimkit or print it out. You can pull it into Quizlet and stuff like that too. So like I said, it's collaboration. You can still do it over Zoom. The kids can still work together. You can throw them into breakout rooms to work together. Maybe all the day shifters are over here, all the night shifters are over here. So you can still do this remotely, which is really nice, but it does build collaboration as long as you lay down the ground rules. So questions before we jump in and you guys get a chance to try.
I have a question.
Please.
Like all these different options, because I've only done the Pear Deck slides.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like when you go to peardeck.com, these different choices are up there.
Yes.
Okay.
So we can look at that in a little bit too. Okay. So here's what I want you to do. On your second device, I want you to go to the website, peardeck.com/join. You can also go to joinpd.com. Both of them take you to the same place.
Sarah, can we put this, what we're going to now, as a link for students to click onto in Google Classroom in case they, like sometimes they put it in the chat, but sometimes they can't find
yes,
it.
but wait to do that because I'm going to show you a better way.
Okay, great. And then the other thing, can I ask can you do like put a brain pop video in your slides and then use it through Pear Deck? Or
technically you should be able to, but the problem we're running into is when the kids go to click on stuff for Brain Pop, it sends them out of Google, whatever it is, like Google Slides, Pear Deck, whatever they're in, it sends them out of there. And then they have to sign into Clever and get into Brain Pop. And usually then they have to find the video again.
Okay, forget that.
That's what's happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
Could you use, Sarah, a different video if it wasn't Brain Pop, say it was from YouTube?
So there's a couple different things you can do. You can put the YouTube video in your slides, and then you would need the Power Up extension that we talked about.
Okay.
The other option is to embed a website question in your Pear Deck. So when we had those Pear Deck choices and one of the choices was website, for the website, you can put the YouTube URL and it'll open the video next to the slides.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So you should be on that website. I'm going to pull up my demo slides. And those of you that did this with me over the summer, you'll recognize my dinosaur slides. Here they are. All right, so when the teacher is ready to start their Pear Deck, like we did before, they go to add-ons. I've already embedded my questions in here. They're already ready to go. But now I'm ready for my students to actually do the Pear Deck. So again, I'm going to go to add-ons. I'm going to go to Pear Deck.
Sarah, it's asking for a code. I'm sorry.
Yep, it's supposed to.
Oh, okay.
Here it goes. So once you're in Pear Deck and you're ready to start, on the teacher side, so the kids side, everybody should have a screen that's asking you to input a code. On the teacher side, you need to click this Start Lesson button up here at the top. And when you click that button, it's going to ask you to make a choice. Do you want this to be student paced, meaning kids can complete it at their own speed when they're ready? This is a great choice for those kids who are on their independent learning days. It's also a great choice for our specialists who are giving the kids, they might not see the kids every day, or something might be going on where they need them to complete it over the course of the week. So that would be student paced. The kids can kind of click through the slides and they can keep going and they can do it at their own pace. We're going to do instructor pace. Now, this means you're standing at the front of the classroom and you're talking to the kids and you're guiding them through the slides one by one. It could also be something that you do with the kids while you're on Zoom and you have them all together at the same time. The key thing to know is that for instructor paced, the kids can't move forward to the next page or slide or question until the instructor moves everybody forward at the same time. So if you don't want to be the one who's kind of moving everybody to the next page, to the next step, to the next question, you want to pick student paced. Even if you're expecting them to finish it within the next half hour, you still want to pick student paced so that they can finish it on their own. They're not waiting for you to bring them on to the next question. So we're going to do instructor paced. Ooh, pick my account. Here we go. So once this loads up, it's going to give me 3 options to share this with my class. So right now we're going to do it based on the code, which I'm going to give you guys, and you'll see it on the screen. So here's the code, and it gives you a funny little saying to go with it. So it's hilarious umbrellas rarely turn victorious kangaroos. So that's how you could do that. The other option to answer your question, Mary, is when you do this, you can connect it straight to your Google Classroom. So usually there's a Google Classroom button down here where you could just click it and it would automatically bring a link over to your Google Classroom. If that Google Classroom button isn't there, so it's not there on mine right now, which I'm not sure why it should be, but you can also do this choice to give students a link. So if I clicked on this button right here, it would give me a URL. And especially for our younger friends, our young kiddos who might not know the letter V from the letter U or have difficulty locating all of these letters on a keyboard, if you give them the link, put the link in Google Classroom, they can just click on the link and they don't have to worry about putting the code. The code is already built into the link.
Sarah, how do you get it to do that immediately to Google Classroom? Because I've been using a lot of these Pear Decks and I always have to copy the link and paste it in the stream. I've never had that pop up. Is there some way that you're supposed to?
Have you been doing all instructor paste? Have you done student paste?
I've done all instructor paste.
So I think it only shows up for student paste.
Okay.
So if you do student paste, it'll be there, but otherwise the give students a link, you can, it's kind of the same thing. You just have to open up a new tab and paste it in there. When you do the Google Classroom button, when you click on Google Classroom, it pops up a thing and says, what classroom do you want to put it in? And you just pick the classroom and put it in there.
Okay, so it's the same thing,
It's the
really.
same link.
Okay.
Sarah,
I just looking for a faster way.
Yep.
sorry. For this code,
Uh-huh.
I was in a PD, I don't even know, the other day, or a meeting the other day, and the person running it was using Pear Deck,
Yes.
and they sent out the link and the code like the week before.
Uh-huh.
I guess what happened to him was they changed this code every day. Is that true?
I think they change it. I want to say so it depends. I've heard that it gets changed every 7 days. I don't know how accurate that
Every
is.
7 days, yeah.
I do know that if I were to go into my teacher side of Pear Deck, I can see a list of all of the sessions that I've run and I can turn them off and on. And if I turn one off and then turn the same one back on again, it gives it a new code. So the code doesn't stay the same.
All right, so just something to keep in mind, I guess.
Yeah, I wouldn't start them until you're ready to use them. I wouldn't post them and share them until like maybe the day before at the earliest. I wouldn't go any farther out than that.
Okay.
So can I just follow up with a quick question about that then? Because I've been running Pear Decks and I've run it with 2 different sessions.
Mhm.
And every time I've put a new code in, because I thought that when I opened it up for the next class, it was a new Pear Deck. Is that actually the same code as the last one if it's the same deck?
No, it's different.
It is different.
It is different because you're doing instructor pace, which is what we're doing. So you're collecting answers as we go along. For
Mhm.
student paced, what you would do is, for example, you would open your slides, you would go to Pear Deck, you would do start, and you would do student paced. And then to do it for your other section of kids, you would have to open the slides again, go to start lesson, go to student pace. So you would have 2 student paced lessons running at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Sarah,
All right.
Thank you.
could I
Sorry.
have one
Yep, no,
question
who was
about
that?
the Google Classrooms. When it asks you, are those the Google Classrooms you've named, or are
Mhm.
they named somewhere else and we run into that issue I mentioned to you before?
Nope. So they're the Google Classrooms that you have named. What it'll do is it'll probably, you know how when you click on something that integrates with Google Classroom, it integrates with Google and it pops up and it says, who are you? And you have to click your name. And
Yep.
then you have to scroll down and click the allow button.
Yep.
So you would do that. And then it pops up a window and it has a list of your Google Classrooms.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. All right. So this is our title slide. Everybody can see this. On the teacher side down here, so on your screen, you should just be looking at my slides. Let's say you have a kid who comes in late to class or joins your Zoom late. The code lives up here in the corner. So if you've given that link in Google Classroom, they can click on that link. But if we're already on slide 2 or 7 or 12 or whatever, they're going to jump in where we are. They're not going to start at the beginning. So they're going to miss whatever they've missed if it's instructor paced. If it's student paced and they click on that link, they're going to start at the beginning because it's kind of like handing a kid a packet of worksheets and saying, here, start working. And they all just kind of move along at their own pace. Down here, it shows you which slide you're on. So right now we're on 1 of 10. It shows that I'm presenting. And if I wanted to, if someone, let's say, for example, Celeste asked a really good question, I could click this new prompt button, pick what kind of prompt I want to add in here real quick. Throw this one in here, and you guys can drag a dot on that screen on your second screen, what the kids see. And on my side, I can see how many people have responded. I have 4 responses so far. 6, 8, 9. So I could kind of guide people through that way. If I wanted to shut it down, I would click it. Those of you that haven't answered yet, and those of you that have answered, you'll see that I'm not accepting answers anymore. It's kind of shut it down on you. So that's this lock button down here on my teacher screen. I can unlock it and keep going. People can still turn things in. And if
Sarah, that was the new prompt button. That's what you hit to start?
to get this picture, yes, I
Yes.
did a new prompt.
Okay, just checking. Thanks. Sorry.
This was like spur of the moment. Somebody asked an awesome question. I want to throw it into the middle of my slides. I do the new prompt. And you can't like build it yourself. You have to use one of the templates that they have. So then if I wanted everybody to kind of see how we're feeling in the room, on my side, I have show responses. So I can pull this up and I can see right now I'm looking at everybody layered on top of each other, which is this button up here in the left-hand corner. Everybody's on top of one another. If I wanted to see individual responses, I can see how each individual person responded.
How did you switch to that? Where was that?
Here in the left,
Okay.
so I can overlay them so they're sitting on top of each other. I can see them as a grid, so I see each picture side by side. Or I can see them as a list, and it just makes the picture bigger and I have to scroll down through them. And as you can see, there's no names associated with this. So when I do show responses, I can share this with the class and they don't know who answered what.
So right now I'm just seeing my screen. I'm not seeing anything that you're showing.
Right.
How do you,
On your
where's
second
the,
device.
right. So you're saying you can share it with the class. How does that happen then?
So this would be, if we were in the classroom, this is what I would be presenting on the projector. What you're seeing right here would be what's on the projector. If you're in Zoom,
Oh,
this is
gotcha.
what you're screen sharing.
And Sarah,
Oh,
So if you're
okay.
on Zoom, if you're doing this on Zoom, you would want to screen share this, what you're seeing on your computer, where you're screen sharing with me. And then you would want to teach the kids how to have that second window open, either the control brackets, or I think Adam, my kid, said it was like control and then the little square. There's all different kinds of ways to split your screen and have two things open side by side. But you would basically want them to have the screen share open next to the Pear Deck slides that they typed in the code.
Okay, then if you're not sharing your screen, because I've gone back and forth and I didn't know what the kid's interface was. If you're not sharing your screen, then they're seeing me though on Zoom. Is that correct?
Yes.
So then, because the kids can say they say they can see me. So that's what I wasn't sure what was going
Yeah.
on. So
So
if
if
I
they're not sharing screen, they're just looking at their Brady Bunch or their speaker view.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But if you want them to see what they answered, you share your screen and you choose that response thing down at the bottom.
So this is me as a teacher now. If I don't want to have to deal with splitting the screen and screen sharing and all of that kind of stuff, I would honestly probably go student paced and let them work at their own pace, because they'll see everything they need on their screen, and you can just kind of hang out on Zoom and they can ask questions and do it that way. If you're going to do instructor paced, it's best to share your screen, because sometimes there's stuff on the teacher screen that they need to answer the questions on their student screen. So
What would be on the teacher screen that they're not seeing other than the shared responses?
So when we get to the multiple choice question, which is coming up in a little bit, there are times where they have the question, when they go to the multiple choice question, they get the answers on their side, but they need to look at the projector or at the screen share to see the question.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yep.
Sarah, could we do it both ways so we could see like what you're saying visually?
What do you mean?
Like do it self-paced and then do it teacher-paced, because for some reason I'm having a difficult time seeing the difference.
Sure.
And can I ask one other question?
Sure.
This sounds like a great check for understanding. Like you could just stop and then do this. I call it SEFSHU because my teacher taught me that years ago at Bridgewater. This doesn't give you a tally though. You kind of got to move the little dots around, correct?
Yes, correct. However, at the end, when you do, they're called takeaways. It's something that you get as like a report of how everybody answered. When you get to the takeaways, you'll have a tally, not a tally, but you'll have a Google Doc for each of your students to kind of like grade or record or whatever it is.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna hide the responses. I'm done sharing the responses. So we're back to, this is what would be on the projector or what would be on your screen share. These are the questions. I'm gonna move everybody forward to the next question. So this time you're circling. So you're using your mouse or your trackpad to physically draw a circle around something. And again, I have a counter. I can see how many people have answered. If I wanted to show responses so far, I can do that. I can lock everybody. Maybe I'm done accepting answers and I want to review and move on to the next thing. If I want to know who answered what, if I like, so in the moment, if kids are working and I want to see who answered what, the teacher dashboard, which is over here in the 3 dots, okay? This open dashboard in a new window. So it was, I forget who it was. It was Stephanie. You asked me about using the 2 screens. So if you have 2 screens, you can actually open up your teacher dashboard in a new window. Or if you have a second device, I know my middle school and high school teachers, some of you received iPads, some of us are getting iPads. If you have a Chromebook or a phone, you can actually open your dashboard on a second device. And what that allows you to do is this is where you see who answered what on this dashboard window.
Miss that.
There it goes.
Can you show what you just said? I was trying to draw with the pencil. I missed what you said about opening the
That's
iPad,
okay.
which
So
I
if you
can't
go-
do on my phone. So I don't know if you're supposed to be able to do that, but I can't.
So if you go down here to the 3 dots on the toolbar,
Oh,
you can open up the teacher dashboard, which is where you see which student put in what answer. You have a little bit more information because right now the information that I'm sharing by projecting or screen sharing doesn't have names attached to it. That's for the student's privacy. But if I, as the teacher, want to see right now in the moment who's answering what, I can open the teacher dashboard, and that tells me who answered which one. So if I'm on this one, I don't know if you guys can see this because it is in a new window, but I can see which of the students answered which one. So sea turtle, so it has different names, different animals for each one. So I would know who was which one. This would be your name. So I didn't require you guys to sign into Google.
And that opened up in a new tab. There's a new tab and you're seeing that. So the kids aren't seeing it on your
Correct.
projector.
Well, you would have to have the double monitors. So I know, Donna, you have the double monitors. You would drag this dashboard to the new monitor and you would have that open on one side and your screen share open on the other.
Okay.
Celeste.
We're in person with kids. Could you just have this on another tab and like freeze your projector so you could?
Yep. So you could, I wouldn't have it on another tab. That's not how I would probably do it. What I would probably do is use my projector as if it were a second screen. So just like the second monitor, instead of duplicating the image, you would extend it. And I would drag the part that gets projected and shared with the whole class over to the projector and leave the teacher dashboard with the names on my laptop.
So this is getting very complicated, maybe. I don't know. So I have my own monitor.
You don't have to do this part.
No, I want to do this part. That's the whole thing. I have my monitor and I got the second monitor. So can I hook up both of those monitors so that I can keep my kids on Zoom? I like being able to see my kids. And then I could drag the tab to another monitor and then have.
I believe so, but I would say test it out before I say 100% yes.
Okay.
I think you can have 3, but I'm not totally sure about that.
All right. Thanks.
You're gonna have a whole TV studio over there.
I know it. I know. And then my kids tease me because I can't use the channel changer because can't figure it out. So
Hey, we each have our things.
this is
All right.
crazy.
Let's keep going through these a little bit just because I want you to see. So this would be a text question where the kids are typing stuff in. So on my screen, I'm showing you the question. On your student screen, you have your place to type your answer. So I think if I remember correctly, if you're on a phone, you have to toggle back and forth between the question and the answer space, which is one of the benefits of having the question on the screen so the kids don't have to keep going back and forth. They can just type. However, most of our kids are on Chromebooks, so they should be seeing the question and the answer space next to each other.
So once I answer, Sarah, do I have to like press enter for it to register or is it automatically?
Nope, you have to press enter or submit. I forget if it has a submit button or if it's just enter.
I don't have anything.
I think on the phone, there isn't a button.
I think it's just enter or return on the keyboard.
I can hit done.
Yep, that would be it.
I got it to come up on my phone, but it took 3 different tries. So if you're on a phone, it may be. a little glitch.
Where is done?
Yeah, I don't see anything like that on the second.
Yeah, I don't have that on my screen either.
I don't have done.
So I've got 13 people answered. So I don't know who answered what, but this is what I got.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
I'm in there.
Mine, I said they're big.
Somebody deleted theirs.
I deleted my second response, not my
Oh, there you
first.
go. So this is what I got. And
So
like
you
I said,
got mine.
normally I'll show you where to do it. Normally you would have the kids sign into Google so that you know who is who. So when I go to my teacher dashboard, instead of seeing ostrich, aardvark, bear, all of those animals, I would actually see the students' names associated with their stuff. So you have to make sure you use the sign in with Google option. Otherwise you won't know who put what in.
So if you're doing like an exit ticket, Sarah, on like that Pear pop, that
Yep.
would be what it would be like, right? That you'd get a question like that and you're going to get it to pop up. It's it's almost like whatever that other thing is that I just paid $180 for, whatever, to Pear Padlet.
Yeah, kinda. Kinda.
So Sarah, for the little kids, and they're all on Chromebooks, if we give them the the code and they put it in, it'll show us because they all are already registered in their Google account.
So you want to make sure that you turn on Google Classroom, and I'll show you where that is when we
Okay.
finish up. All right. So this is what the website looks like. So members, I forget who asked me specifically, but about putting like a YouTube link in here or watching a video, or if you want them to go to, for example, National Geographic Kids, because we're researching bears and you found a National Geographic article about bears, it'll have the website on one side and it'll keep your slide on the other so that they can look at your slide, they can see what you're telling them to do, and then they can integrate with the website or the video on the other half of the screen. It gets a little clunky when you're on the smaller devices like the phones and things like that, but it is nice to be able to have those two things open at the same time. Okay. All right, so this is I think a multiple choice question. Yes, multiple choice question. And the little Pear guy down in the corner reminds you what kind of question you're on. So he has the A, B, C, D boxes. So I know it's multiple choice. The question's up on the board. You guys should have the answer choices on your screen. And again, similar to the text question, having to go back and forth if you're on a smaller screen device. And then I could show what people are responding. The nice thing about the multiple choice questions, it gives you these tally bars. You can see, oh, we're on the right spot. Everybody, for the most part, everybody's understanding this. If this was split up all over the place, you would know that this is a question or a topic that you need to review with the students. It's not something that we have solid understanding of. But by noting that this no question is at 10, I know that these couple of other kiddos, we might have to go back over this again, but for the most part, the class is understanding it. So these multiple choice questions are pretty helpful. And then in your teacher dashboard side, not the screen share one, but the teacher dashboard one where the names are, you would be able to click on the grid layout and see which of the individual students answered which way. It's not super helpful this way because it's just all of the answers laid out individually.
Sarah, I know that Wendy mentioned about if you had another device, you could have the teacher's dashboard. Do you just log into your account again, and that's how you have that on another device?
So you go to the three dots, and
Yeah.
right here under where it says open in a new window, you do open in a new device.
Okay.
And this is what it does for you. It tells you exactly where to go. So app.peardeck.com/dash.
Okay.
And it would, so if you had an iPad, if you had a kiddo's Chromebook in the classroom, you could just go to that website and it would pull up the dashboard on that screen. And then you could still have your screen share on your teacher laptop.
Sarah, right now, as we're looking, because you just changed it. Otherwise, we're still as students looking at our yes, no answer, correct?
Yes.
Perfect.
And you can change your answer. Those of you, I saw some of you playing around with it. Students can change their answer. So you want to make sure that you lock the question before you show them the student responses. So if I were to go back to that, I still have your 13 responses. I would lock the question so you can't answer it anymore. And then I would show you the responses. So now those of you that were flipping your answers back and forth, you can't flip your answers anymore. So it locks it and doesn't let anybody change anything or resubmit something.
And again, how did you show us the answers? How did you get to that?
It says show responses.
Yeah, thank you. That's it. Sorry.
And then it's just the overlay.
Got it.
All right. So this time I want you to move the little icon. I believe it's a magnifying glass. I want you to put the magnifying glass on this guy's eye, just to kind of show you what the drag stuff looks like. And when you're setting up the draggables, you can choose the icon, you can choose the color, and you can choose how big it is. So it can be smaller, it can be larger to fit the needs of your students. So some of our younger kiddos might need bigger icons just for dexterity and mobility purposes.
Now, Sarah, once you drag the magnifying glass, do you have to hit enter after it or just leave it alone?
Nope, you just leave it, because if you change your mind and you want to move it, you can just grab it and move it again. And then when I'm ready to look at what you have, I'm going to lock it. So now you can't move it anymore.
Okay.
And now when I go to show, I can see who's on the right track And if I have my teacher dashboard open, I can find out who this friend over here who thinks a nose is an eye. And we can work,
Stuart, what are you thinking?
Wait a minute. Wait,
we
whoa,
can
whoa, wait.
work on
You-
that skill, okay?
No. You froze it before I could move it back. I was moving.
Greg, we didn't know it was you until you gave yourself
There
up.
you go. All right, another draggable. And I believe this one you have multiple things you can drag. If I built this one correctly, you can move the dot a couple of different times.
Okay.
And then if I wanted to show responses while students were moving things, they can see, oh, look, everybody realizes dinosaurs were everywhere. So that's kind of a fun one. Like when the answer is kind of ambiguous, you can show how diverse the answers are. And then numbers. So this is just a number question. It forces you to put in numerals. And this one, when you do the overlay, it's actually pretty cool because it shows you the range of answers. So you might have that outlier. So this person out here, a couple people out here, but the majority of our answers are down here in this range. So I would be able to know that if we were on the right track, if the answers are kind of grouped in the same place, or if they're kind of all over the place. I can zoom in a little bit and see where the majority of the answers are. And it tells me that 3 of the answers are not in this zoomed view. So it helps me to gauge if I need to do intervention on this or not. I need to do a little reteaching. So this is the end. This would be where I ask for any questions. Anybody have things they still want to talk about? I think that's it. Ooh, somebody wrote something. No. And then that's it. So I'm going to end this. So the really cool thing about Pear Deck is that you can switch between student and instructor pace. So if you wanted to do, for example, the first 2 or 3 slides as instructor pace, teaching the kids how to do something, the first thing that comes to mind is, for example, a math type of thing. If you're teaching them something in math and you want to walk them through the 3 steps of it, you could have 3 or 4 slides be student pace or instructor paced. And then down here in these dots where we were finding that teacher dashboard, I can switch it to student paced, and I can say, okay, now you're going to work on your own. You're going to go for the next however many slides. And maybe I have a stop sign icon built in on one of the slides if that's where they need to stop. But I can have them finish the rest of the Pear Deck on their own speed at their own time. So I could use this option to turn on student paced right here. And it would let them go through the slides as they want to. When you're done, you click end. It says, are you sure? It does save it for you so that you can come back in and see student responses and stuff. If you use the Google option, so to have Google turned on, you are going to publish student takeaways. And what this does is it takes all of the student responses and it puts each student's responses into a Google Doc. So it would say, Celeste, here's how Celeste answered for each of these slides. Here's Craig, here's how he answered for each of these slides. Here's Donna, here's how she answered for each of these slides. And you can then share those Google Docs with the kids so that they have a record of how they answered as well. And then it also puts your answers into a Google Sheet so that you have columns. You can actually see how many kids answered yes, how many kids answered no. And it will share the takeaways directly to Google Classroom. So the Google Docs we were talking about, I can have them come directly to you. I click this button, pick my class, and it goes directly to you guys into your Google Drive.
Comes to us as educators into our Google Classroom.
Comes to the students through Google Classroom.
To the students.
So if I hit that button and you guys were part of my Google Classroom and I hit that button, you would get a thing in Google Classroom saying, Mrs. Boyle is giving you your takeaway from whatever today's thing is called.
Okay.
So Sarah, I'm confused. So you're saying we had to go through Google Classroom. So we didn't because we went right through our second device.
Right.
So if I want the students to go through Google Classroom, do I have to share it on Google Classroom?
So that works best. So what you would do is, let me move some stuff out of the way because we all know the Zoom toolbars. Okay, so I would go to add-ons.
Right.
I would go to Pear Deck. open it up. And then over here on the side where it says start this lesson, there's these 3 little bars, the
Right.
hamburger. So in here, I would require students to sign in. So I would turn this on because I want to make sure I know who's answering what, because otherwise I get aardvark and bear and all of that kind of crazy stuff. So I don't want that. I want to turn this on so that I know who's who. In your Pear Deck settings, so if you go to peardeck.com, within your account settings on Pear Deck, you want to make sure that you've linked up with Google Classroom, because Google Classroom is the best way to get everybody in the way you want them to be. And it's the best way to get them those takeaways at the end so that they have a record of what you talked about during the lesson, or if some of it has like notes or stuff like that, it's the best way to get that stuff to them.
So whatever would be on the Pear Deck on the slides would be saved in their Google Classroom and they can access it again later?
No,
Okay,
the answers that they put on there are there. So like if
Okay.
there's a drawing or a draggable, those images and that piece of text would be on there. But for example, the multiple choice and all of that kind of stuff, that's not on there, just their answer choices on there.
okay, thank you.
What else? Sarah, so you might have kind of shared this already, but so I have some kiddos that like still working on letter identification. So you're right, typing in is hard. So how exactly do I get the code? Would I just like look for the code and post that into their Google Classroom as an assign? I'm sorry, not the code, the link as an assignment?
Yes. So the easiest thing to do is when you do start the lesson
Yeah.
and you do student paced or instructor paced, once you've picked
Yep.
how you're going to start, it comes up to that screen that has the 6 letters. Instead of having everybody go to join PD and type in those 6 letters,
Right.
on the bottom, there's going to be a link. And if you're doing student paced, there's going to be send to Google Classroom. If you're doing instructor paced, it's just the link.
But you could do that. For instructor page, you could just post the link in the
So
classroom.
you just grab the link, go over to Google Classroom, paste it in, and that's their assignment for the day.
I would make things a little easier. Okay, thank you.
Really great for the littles who.
Right, because otherwise we have to go around and say, that's the H, that's the J.
Exactly. Yep. I mean, definitely skills we want to work on, but for the sake of getting them into the lesson,
Right.
maybe that's where we're going to work on that. We don't want to struggle to get into it.
Sarah, by signing into Google Classroom, if
Mhm.
I do that for the little ones, do they have to put in their 0M number?
So for the littles, once they are signed into the Chromebook, so once they've used their QR code to get into the Chromebook, when they go to Google Classroom, they just have to click on their name if it asks them. It shouldn't even ask them, but if it does, they just have to click on their name.
Okay. If I put the link in, so what I've been doing is I'm going to Zoom, I copy the link from Pear Deck and I put it in the chat and they click on that.
That doesn't always work because the chat on the Chromebook is not clickable.
Oh,
So if you're posting links in a chat and your students are on a Chromebook, those links are not clickable. So the best way to get links to your kids is to put it in Google Classroom.
that
That's
explains
good
a
to
lot.
know.
Okay.
So I'm,
Yeah, we just
I'm-
figured that out this fall.
yeah,
'Cause they
I,
could see it, but they couldn't click it. So I'd say, click
Right.
the blue letters.
Nope, they can't.
yep, they can't. I'm really confused about how I link this into Google Classroom and share. And I'm on my peardeck.com. I'm in my account.
Yep.
And I see these things popping up that says present a file from Drive. So they're hooked to my Google Drive. They
Mhm.
must be because they're pulling up these files.
Well, it's all integrated.
But I don't know how, I still don't understand how I hook it to Google Classroom for my kids. Like, do I make it as an assignment or something? I'm
All right,
just,
so there's a couple different things going on. The first thing is, in order to get the button that says share to Google Classroom, like to get them to join it,
Mhm.
share to Google Classroom is only available when it's student paced.
Okay.
If it's instructor paced, you do get student link and you put that in Google Classroom, and they just like you've been doing. You said
Right.
what you've been doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the Google Classroom button to joining only shows up student paced.
Yeah. But what
That's
about, you were
what-
saying about sharing the information, how they did and their files and stuff like that? That's what.
So the only thing you need to do to make that work, this one, is when you go to Pear Deck, you log in. So here's my teacher screen, right? If I want to go and see past sessions, I can click on this session button here. That's what takes me to all my data. But right now I want to look into my account. So I'm going to go into my account. And it says I'm on a premium account because Milford pays for it. So that's why that's there. Let's move all this stuff out of the way. And if I go to settings, this is where my options are. So classroom climate. So every time you join a Pear Deck, every time your kids join a Pear Deck, do you want them to answer this? I feel good. I feel meh. I feel blah. So
Gotcha.
that's an option. You can just shut that off if the kids are tired of seeing that. And there's different things you can check for here. Okay, so you can turn on the feedback option. Maybe you just want the smiley facey thing, whatever. Down here where it says Google Classroom, this
Got
is
it.
what enables you to, when it says those student takeaways, if
Yeah.
you don't have this turned on, what it's going to do, it's still going to make those student takeaways, but it's only going to make them for you. So then it's up to you to get those takeaways to the kiddos. By turning this on, it makes it so that send to Google Classroom button pops up at the end.
Okay.
So once you've turned this on and check this box, if it's not checked,
Yep.
that's what makes that Google Classroom button show up at the end. And then takeaways, you want to make sure that those are turned on because that's data for you and it's data for the kids.
That's why I wasn't getting any information.
And then the last one you want to turn on is require student logins. We're Google, so obviously Google, and just make sure that's turned on. And I always, always, always recommend, if you're doing Pear Deck, before you start it, always double check that those student logins are turned in. Because I can't tell you how many people have come to me and said, I did Pear Deck, it was great, we had so much fun, but I don't know whose answers were whose. And it's because this was turned off.
So now my students will have to, are you saying they will have to enter their Milford code? First dot name, dot last name? all that whole
Technically,
thing?
yes, but no, because if they're on a Chromebook, which most of our kiddos
Yeah,
are,
they are. Yep.
they're already logged in. All they have to do is click
Perfect.
their name. So you know how,
Perfect.
like, if they're logged in and we send them somewhere and it says, who are you? And they click their name and they're logged in.
Yep.
Same
So it's
thing.
only going to be like if they're using a different device, they're using
Correct.
dad's computer or something, then.
Then they
got
got to log all in from
Got
scratch.
it. Thank you.
Yep. Any other
Sarah,
questions?
Could you go back? Sorry, could you go back to your settings? I was just wondering what the immersive reader one was.
Oh, immersive reader is great.
Okay.
It's basically Microsoft's version of read and write.
Oh,
So it doesn't do all of the fancy like screen reader stuff and all of that kind of stuff that read and write does, but it reads the words on the page. So if you turn that on and there's text on the slides on the Pear Deck, not text part of an image, but like literally text, like text boxes and things that you've typed, it'll read it to them, similar to how read and write will read it to them.
wow. So like for read and write, you usually have to highlight the words, or like you said, do the screenshot. Is there a button they would have to press?
So there's
Do
a
you know?
button. There is a button. Let me see if I can pull it up. I don't know if it's going to show
Just
up.
because I'm trying to teach Google read and write now for some of the kids.
I would stick with read and write. I know it's not great on
Right.
stuff, but the way immersive reader works, so this is what the button looks like, this kind of microphone on top of a book thing here. But what it does is when you click on it, it actually takes the text on the page. It thinks and thinks and thinks. It pulls the text kind of into like a new window, and it's really big and really spaced out. So it doesn't read it on the page. It kind of pulls it out and reads it on a new page. So if you click this learn more thing here, it kind of tells you a little bit more about it. I've played with it a little bit. It's clunky. It does the job. It reads the text to the kids. But if you do the Pear Deck with audio, you are reading the slide to the kid anyway. So you don't really need the immersive reader. The immersive reader is only if the teacher isn't providing the audio support to begin with.
Mhm.
So it goes through like how it works. And see, this is what it looks like. It pulls up
Mhm.
like this, and they can adjust the text size and stuff like that. But here's the question. This is what it looks like typically, normally. And this is what happens when you turn on immersive reader. And so they can hear it, but then they still have to go back to answer the question. It's not like integrated quite as much as read and write is.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
That's good to know.
Anybody else?
Are you able to share a little bit like what the reports look like when we get them?
Sure. So I'll share my sessions. I'll show you what that looks like.
Okay.
Okay, this one. All right. So if I go back up to the top and I click on my sessions,
Mhm.
these are the things I have going on, right? So this is the one that we just did.
Mhm.
So I could click into it. I could see the dashboard, but the stuff you probably really want to read is over here in the 3 dots.
Okay.
This is where I can see the takeaways, those individual student reports, and this is where I can see the spreadsheet. So let's look at the spreadsheet first, and then we'll come back and look at the takeaways.
Okay.
So it pulls over all the data, and this can happen for student paced or instructor paced. Doesn't matter how you pace the lesson, as long as you've ended the lesson, it's done. You can come in and look at all of this stuff. So here's the spreadsheet. Tells you who did what. Here's the names of the kids. If I had the Google thing turned on, this would be your actual name.
Mhm.
And then here's the information. So some of it's not super helpful because it was the drawing and the dragging. So it's showing you like coordinates of where it is on the slideshow. But if you're looking at text answers or multiple choice answers, this is a great way to kind of get a gauge of where everybody's at. Here's the number slide. And then here's the anybody have more questions slide. So these coordinate ones, not super helpful, but the other ones kind of give you a good idea of what's going on. And then if I come back into my Pear Deck and I look at the takeaways this time,
Mhm.
maybe. Come on. A lot of data. All right, so I'm going to open this up. I just clicked the link. I didn't do the share to Google Classroom because you guys aren't in Google Classroom. But if I just open it up, and these live in your drive, so you can always come back to them. As you can see, they're in my drive. They're labeled. Follow the breadcrumbs. I can see that they live in my Pear Deck folder, my takeaway folder. This is the name of the slides. This is what I call the session. So all of my sessions that I've done takeaways for live inside this folder. So they're always here. Even if the kids got rid of it, I still have it. So if I want to look at, for example, this person's, I can just open it up. Mom and dad go, Bobby didn't understand the lesson today, or whatever it may be. You can pull up the Pear Deck. You can provide feedback as a teacher, right? But then you have actual pictures of, once they load, of what the kids drew, where they drug stuff, what their multiple
That's
choice
awesome.
answers were. You can give notes like, hey, this was a great answer, but not super on target. You might want to consider A, B, C, and D. So you can do all of that. So this person put the dot here. Again, you can put notes and stuff like that. So it shows what the slide originally looked like, and then it shows where that person's answer is on the picture ones. And then again, here's the slide. Here's the answer. You can give responses underneath each one.
And then that you would go back to them on their Google Classroom. That's where they would see this.
So if you click that Google Classroom button that popped up,
Mhm.
let's see if I can get it to come up. Oh, one more. This one. If I push this one, because I turned on that Google thing, it's going to push this. So Donna, you would get a document that says Pear Deck demo slides, Donna Williams, and it'll have all of your answers in there.
Okay, and it's going to have basically what we just saw, but if you wanted the teacher comments, you'd have to do that first, then you'd share it out, right?
Nope, it's a shared document. So your version and my version are the same.
Okay.
I don't know if the students can write on them though. I know the teacher can. The students might just have view only status.
Okay.
It does take some time to go through and add notes to it. I don't know many people that go through and add notes unless it was a total case of like student checked out, was only present for the first 2 slides, or if there was something like egregious, like they just totally didn't get the whole thing. Like I don't know many teachers that sit and comment on all the slides for all of their students. It takes a good significant amount of time.
But there's no way to like share that, anything like this out to parents as far as like push it out in an email or something like that. There's no link to it. It's just on the Google Classroom. That's where they would see it, right?
So it's on Google Classroom. It's also in the student's drive, just like everything else that's in Google Classroom is also on Drive. If it's in Google Classroom, it's in Drive.
Okay.
So you could potentially go document by document and add the parents to it if you wanted to.
I'm just trying to figure out, I'm part of the issue I'm having is with, parents being able to see work without me,
Yeah.
it being tons of work for me to try and get things
Right.
out for
So
parents. Extremely
my
time.
advice as a parent and as a teacher, because this is what I do with my own children, my 5th grader and my 7th grader, I sign in as them. It's the only way, because those parent summaries, I don't know who's on this meeting anymore. The parent summaries are useless. They don't
Okay.
tell me anything. And if I want to see what my 5th grader is turning in for his Spanish work, I need to sit down. I need to log in as Adam Valenzola. I need to click on his Spanish class. I need to open the assignment, and I need to see the file that he is physically working on for that assignment. There is no other way.
So, and they can log on as the student, just, they can do it on their own device. They just
They can
type
do it
in.
on anything they want. All they need is their kid's email and their 0M0 password.
Okay.
Sarah, when you say
They all have that.
summaries, what is that or where is that? Why am I missing that?
So the Guardian summaries are basically an email digest that some of the teachers have used, and mostly at the high school, and some of it has trickled down to the middle school. And basically what it is a weekly or daily update that parents can receive about their child's activity within Google Classroom. However, the only thing it tells you is assignments that are, well, relatively recent assignments that are missing. So if it's been missing for more than a week, it doesn't show up anymore. Upcoming assignments within the next couple days, and any posts that were made that day or that week, like any important things that are going on. So if I wanted to turn on Guardian summaries, I would, let's do this one. So here I am. I would go to settings over here in the corner. I would scroll down. And right here where it says Guardian summaries, I would turn this on. So this is on. The color is gray, so it doesn't really show up. But I would turn it on. And in order to have the parents receive the emails, you have to input the emails, or if another teacher has already input an email for that student, it will show up here in the middle. So for example, if Celeste and I both have Jane's student as one of our students, I want to turn on Guardian summaries. Celeste may have already turned on Guardian summaries and put in Jane's mom's email. So that means Jane's mom is also, once I turn on that button, Jane's mom is automatically going to start receiving summaries from all of the teachers that have turned that on. But like I said, it's not super helpful. As a parent, I don't use it. I get them daily. Most people default to weekly, but I get them daily. It doesn't help me at all. I sit down at the end of each workday and I log in as both of my kids to see what they didn't do and have them sit down and finish.
Oh, I love you. I wish all my parents did that.
Ugh. So the first couple of weeks were really rough, Donna.
And also, speaking from experience, it tells you that they handed stuff in, but many of my students hand stuff in blank.
Yeah.
So to their
nice.
parents, oh, they handed everything in. Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
but
yeah.
they got zeros
Yes,
on
I've
everything.
definitely had that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did too.
Yeah,
And their
what it-
parents get a false sense of security, like, oh, my kid is doing great. They've handed everything in.
Right.
And then progress reports come out or report cards come out and they're failing because everything they handed in was blank.
Yes. And it doesn't send out, so you know how a lot of times, like, for example, in those situations, you would return the work to a kid and you would make a comment saying, oh, you only answered number 1 and 2, you need to finish and resubmit it. None of that shows up in the parent summaries. The only thing that shows up is missing work for the past week, upcoming due work for this week, and a couple of like important posts or announcements that were made. On the flip side of that, what was I going to say? I forgot now.
Well, if we're only seeing our students 2 days
Oh.
and then not again,
Right.
it doesn't help.
You can send grade summaries. So if you go into your Google Classroom and you have things that are graded,
Yeah.
you can email them their grade summaries of
Ooh.
how they are so far, like where their grades stand so far. So I only knew about one of my children not doing well because I got emails of where their percentage was as of right now in their class, saying if they don't step it up, they're going to have some trouble. So you can actually do an email to the parents if their email address is in there, and to the student themselves saying you have a such and such in this class so far.
Do we have to send all those individually? Is there like a mass email that will send it all out at once?
Good question. Let me find out. Anything else?
Would it translate that email if I asked it to? Okay.
Nope, sorry.
Okay.
We wish it would
Just
do
thought I
everything.
would try.
Good try.
Well, I don't have another Pear Deck question, which I probably will once I try to start doing this all and can't remember. But thank you. That was really, really helpful. This is actually my, I think, 4th Pear Deck training I've taken, but I'm actually using them. So now I know what I don't know. Before I didn't know what I didn't know. Now I know what I didn't know.
Right.
Can I ask you a question about forms and sharing information to parents? I've been doing my assessments on forms. And is there a way I can see where I can print, but I can't print because all my parents are remote, so that doesn't do me any good. I want to be able, and I know that we went through the whole Flubaroo thing, and that's fine, except for the fact that I really prefer using the quiz, because with my kids being remote, the quizzes can give them their feedback right away and everything. I like that I can put in feedback and that, but then I'm having to go and having to write to every parent, and they can't see the tests and they don't know. So I'm trying to figure out, am I missing a place? This is how far it's gone. I'm telling the kids at the end, take a screenshot. Do you see where it just told you how you did? Take a screenshot right now. You know, you can send that, show that to mom and dad, but of course half of them don't, and half of them don't speak English.
Yep.
So we've got that going on. But is there any way to,
In terms of the score or in terms of the content?
preferably the content, but the score is better than nothing?
Nope. Unfortunately, no. There's not really a way to do that.
That's really bad.
Yep. Steph. Okay. That's all right. No worries. Bye. Yeah, no, I don't know a way to share the content. The only thing I found with the grades is if you do put the grades in the Google Classroom gradebook, they can at least see the grade, like it lives there. But in terms of the content, there's no real way to see that. The only thing you can do is you can do the email summary in the settings. And the kids should get an email summary. I believe they can get emails from the like Googly stuff. So you know how, like, if, for example, you fill out a form for Tim and you get an email that says you filled out this form, and then it shows like how you filled out the form. If you turn on email summaries, the kids should be able to receive those Googly emails. So they should get a copy of what they put on their form in their email. It's not in their drive. It's not a document. It stays in email, and it's great big long, just like if you had printed out the form, but at least it's there. But other than that, there's
Will
not
it show
really-
everything, the questions that I wrote and their
Yeah,
answers
just
to
like the
everything?
ones you get for Tim, like when you fill out the major minor form and you see all the stuff.
Never look at them. I don't need to know
Yeah.
again what they said,
Yeah.
so I have no idea.
It's basically like a photograph of the form and says student name and whatever you typed in, student
So
ID,
on
whatever you
So
typed in.
on the settings, when I'm setting it up as a quiz, there's a place to pick email. What is that?
Email, and then one of the sub things under email, I believe, is either email summary or email receipt or something like that. Like it's some sort of confirmation language that basically says they get a copy of what they submitted.
And that's going into the kid's email so that I can tell the parents, log on as your child, check their email. That's gives the information from the text.
I would demo it first with someone that, you know, knows how to do all of that, because you might have 1 or 2 families that you're like, hey, can you try this out for me, please? And then if they don't get the email, let me know and we'll make sure we get that added to the wait list, because I'm pretty sure, but there's always the off chance that for some reason it didn't get added, but it should be all set.
Okay, we'll try on that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all your
Yeah, no
help.
problem.
Thank you. Bye.